In this particular painting, we're gonna paint these poinsettias. And, you know, here's the tracing. And here's a reference photo I gave you. But we're just using it as a reference. We're not trying to copy it exactly. And so what we want to mask out is, we want to mask out, so I gotta get this started, and getting it started, you gotta pump. So there. We wanna mask out these little guys. These are those little stamens or flowers. I think they might be technically flowers actually. On the
those are the flowers.
Those are the flowers,
yeah,
right? So the red ones are actually just the leaves, and the green leaves turn red. So you know, it's kind of fun. As usual, it's always a good idea if we kind of establish where the heck our light's coming from. And I'm going to be true to form. My light tends to always, not always, but very often, 9 out of 10 times, my light tends to come from the left upper corner. And the light source in the picture is not 100% easy to define, but I guess good enough. So I want to get those stamens, and I did a couple extras here. So I just, as you can see already with my drawing, I did not draw out exactly how it is in your reference photo, so don't expect that. And that's not what I'm after. I'm after a loose interpretation. So I have a little bit of those down here, and I have a couple up here that I think, and it's good to have repeat of shapes and colors. And these will be eventually yellow and with a tiny bit of green. And now on my picture, you can also see everything is pretty much just red. There's a tiny little bit of green leaves. I want more green in mine, I've decided. And where am I going to put the masking fluid on? Well, I'm going to think the light is, and this is going to be my center of interest. So that's where I'm going to start, pretty much. I'm going to do a wet and wet wash over it to kind of give it a little bit of color. And then we're going to build out some detail here. And as we go out from that main flower, we're going to keep it more and more abstracted. Because we only have today to do it, for one thing. And I think it'll be a really fun painting. So I am thinking I want to get a little bit of masking fluid on, like maybe this tip and the edge. So I'm putting it on there. And masking fluid, what we do with masking fluid, we put it on where we want to save the whites. That's the whole purpose of masking fluid. And we can put a little bit on this edge, just like here. So we put it on, and masking fluid, like mine happens to be kind of a grayish blue. It's the PBO. And other masking fluids will be clear or white. I put a little bit on there.
Where did you get that pen?
You can get it at Nevada Fine Arts, I do believe.
Okay.
And I'm going to do a couple here of those. You know, their ribs are quite prominent. And a lot of them will be dark, but it's fun to do a few light ones too. So I'm going to do one here too, like that. Because I'm thinking that's, you know, going up, and so maybe the light catches it a little bit. And I don't want to do too much masking fluid. The nice thing about masking fluid is, you know, it saves our whites and we can paint right over it. That's the beauty of it. However, you pay a price, because then, you know, when we're done painting over the masking fluid and it's time to pick it off, then we're left with all these white spaces, and it's a good idea not to be too sloppy with it, because you're stuck with, you know, those shapes, and they are very hard edged. So you will have to go and soften some edges afterwards. So, you know, it's like everything, there's a price to pay. Let's see what else. I could do a little bit maybe on this tip here, could be kind of fun to have a little bit. So I want to keep it to a minimum, just because I don't want to have this, that it, you know, that could create a lot of extra work afterwards, and we don't really have too much work. We want to keep this one kind of loose and not too too time consuming, so we're trying to do that, and a little bit maybe on that edge. And you don't have to put yours on where I put mine on, you know, you can put yours on wherever you like. And I might do just a little one there. And then let me see, is there anything? So I'm also trying to see, I'm also thinking about composition and design and how our eyes are going to weave through the painting. So, you know, I kind of like what I have. I think I might just, maybe I'll go for a little tiny bit on this one, and then I could go for a little bit on this tip here. Of course, that's still part of the main, and that'll kind of, I think I'm good. I think I shouldn't do any more. Should I do any more? Maybe a little bit up here. And again, I'll just do a little bit on the tip, like that. And now I'm really seriously saying to myself, that's it. Because again, I keep thinking about, you know, there's a lot of extra work afterwards if I go bananas. Okay. And again, I want to keep it loose. So it's almost like with pencil lines. These lines here, you're stuck with them, right? You got to do something with them because they're going to stick out. So we're not going to leave them white. I mean, we're going to soften them. We're going to maybe glaze over them. But that's your first job, is just get a little bit of masking fluid on. So the colors that I'm thinking I want to use today is, for these poinsettias, is I'm going to use my Quinacrodone red. So I'm going to put that out here. And I'm going to start with a wet into wet wash. Big shocker, I know. Wet into wet wash. Because, you know, I want to do a loose interpretation, so I don't want to get too, I'm going to put this down. I don't want to get too tight with this. So I'm going to do a wet into wet loose wash over the masking that I applied. And I applied very sparingly, as you know. And then we are going to start from the center of interest. And so and put the most detail in there and have the biggest contrast and tell the most about the flowers. And then as we move out from the center of interest, we are toning down how much detail we put on and how much contrast and all that stuff. And I'm gonna go back to my good old transparent yellow, which if you were using M. Graham would be your nickel azo yellow. They really go on almost identical. And then I am going to use a different blue for change. I'm going to go with my Antwerp blue. I'm going to put that out here. I do want to put a little bit in already because I want to indicate where I want my greens. And I want more green than we have in our reference photo. And you know, green is the complementary color to yellow, so it's really to red. So it's really going to push out the red, so we can use it to kind of push down, and we can use the green we create from the transparent yellow and the Quinacrodone red. If we mix that, and then we mix it with the Antwerp blue, we can get a really almost black. It's going to be really good for our darks.
Is that blue similar to Prussian blue?
Yes, I think they are very, very close. I don't have Prussian blue on my palette. I have it on my palettes that I have for my class sets, for when I teach classes where I bring everything. And I was kind of debating, you know, if I should put the Prussian blue or the Antwerp blue on my own palette that I use for my everyday painting, and they are almost identical. And it was almost like eeny, meeny, miny, mo, but I kind of thought that maybe the Antwerp was a slightly bit prettier. I thought. Mm-hmm. It's a staining color. It's more of a yellow. It's a turquoisey blue, is what I should say. And so this is my little test strip. So now I'm going to put the yellow in here. And bag it in.
Staining?
Yes,
They're both.
they have the same qualities.
Okay.
So you can see it makes a very nice bright green. And let's just put the red in here. That's my Quinacrodone red. And that makes a very, very pretty orange together with the yellow. You can't really see it here because but there, you can see that. And then let's see how it reacts with the Antwerp blue. And so if you don't have Antwerp, but you have Prussian blue, don't fret. Just, that'll be a good color. And I'm trying to keep the mud out here. So let's see here, put a little bit more red on here. And you can see they also make a nice purple or rich dark. And if you mix all of them together, of course you get your neutrals. So let's run these neutrals down here. So I think these three colors will be wonderful for what we're doing. It's always a good idea to see, and they get along really well. So now in this particular painting, I'm working with all staining colors, which means that they're going to be a little bit more difficult to lift, but they're great for glazing because they don't come up as easily. Again, there's always, a consideration to be made for. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways, right? It's either they're going to lift easily, but then they also lift easier when you want to glaze. And
what do you mean by glazing?
Glazing is when you layer colors over each other, layers like we have been doing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's glazing in watercolor language. Thank you. All right, so I am feeling very comfortable with this. Look at this. I mean, I think we can get any color we really want with this.
That's beautiful.
Nice colors.
So that's going to be what we're going to do. And I do like, that's called a limited palette, and I do tend to like to paint with a limited palette. And a lot of times people think with limited palette, so they think, oh, there's not going to be very many colors in there. That is so not true, as you can see. But what it means is that the risk of creating mud unintentionally is reduced greatly because you're working with a limited palette, and you kind of, are not mixing a whole bunch of different colors where you're maybe not sure what they consist of. So here, we're basically working with a limited palette, and we're working with the three primary colors. So what can go wrong? Well, we'll see. All right, so I'm going to go with my big old brush, get all the air bubbles out, and I'm going to wet the whole darn thing. And I'm going to put a little bit of color on, and then I'm going to let it dry. So there, I think it's pretty nice and wet. Well, see how I missed a whole bunch of spots. You can't tell from just looking at it. Up here, I have to hold it up so I can see. And what happens if I have a dry area? Well, all the pigment's going to run around that dry area, and it's going to create a hard edge. And what I don't want in this particular painting is any hard edges. I think this might be 140 pounds. So I'm going to get a little bit of water on the back. And of course, I did make sure that that's going to relax it. I did make sure that my masking fluid was absolutely dry. All right, so now I'm going to go with not a tiny brush, but maybe one that's a little bit smaller, like this one. I'm going to put a little bit of the red on my center.
That's Quin red?
It's Quinacrodone red, correct. It looks pinkish unless you put a pink next to it, and then all of a sudden you can see it's maybe not so pink. And so here I also have some red. This flower here. And I also have some red on this one here. So I'm just putting a little bit on, and I know it's going to flow outside of the lines a little bit. I don't mind that, that's fine. I might just dip my tip of my brush into a little bit of the transparent yellow because I might want to get a little bit of that on. That's like I'm painting on a little bit of sunshine. Can you see that? I always think that's, you know, the yellow's always like it's a little bit of sunshine there. Okay. And let's see. Put a little bit on this. This. I could put a little bit more red on here actually also. And I want to put a little bit of red on here. And now I'm going to try and decide where I want some of a little bit of green. And so I think I might love to have some green down here. Can go really nice and dark. And maybe I want green on this one here. And
Are you still using the yellow?
I'm using yellow.
Oh.
I know I'm saying green.
Wait a minute. Am I
Yeah.
colorblind?
No. And
blue in
yes,
there,
so I'm thinking about where I want the green, but green, you know, I don't have green on my palette, right? I only have the primary colors.
right.
Green is one part, yellow is the one part of green.
Yeah.
And I think I want another green in here actually. Bright one. And then I want one up. Maybe I want one kind of like here. Could be a little green. And so, right now, the reason I only put the yellow on right now is I'm waiting for it to sink in a little bit because, you know, I don't want my green to flow into my, and everything's wet so it's going to flow. I don't want everything to flow into my center of interest flower, my reds, because then it's going to go kind of muddy. And so I'm going to take a little bit of the Antwerp blue on my brush. You can see I have a little bit of yellow in my brush still. And now I can go in and, right, turns green. You can even go in here. I think that might be a good one to have green. And then up here. And I'm doing it very light. This one I could do a little darker actually. And here. What else did I say? I was going to have some green here.
So it stays wet that long.
Yeah, but it's already drying. You can see it doesn't spread nearly as much. And gonna put a little bit of, maybe I'll put a little bit of a purpley color on down here. And here I don't mind if it gets a little darker there. So I can just already begin to plan out. Put a little bit more purpley on here. Push this down a little bit.
And some green, get blue too.
I have a little tiny bit of blue to it, yeah.
And purpley color.
Yeah. And a lot of these areas here, they're going to be very dark. They're kind of like negative spaces. And let's see, this one could be red too. I don't mind this. So now it's a little bit darker and brighter. That's fine. I want to keep this one light. These that are on top light. And I'm gonna go in here and put a little bit more red in here. Can you see how it's already very dry out there?
Yeah.
I can actually go in and do this whole thing. Get a little bit of color on it. I don't mind if I get a little neutral there. And just get a little bit of color around here, down here, and here. That's fine. I think this is maybe as far as I can get this at this go around. Oh, I forgot I wanted this one green too, but that's fine. I kind of like the yellow there actually. because I'm going to make this one quite a bit darker to push this one out. And I like to have that green to push the red out. So I'm already thinking about what I can do. And now I should probably stay out before I get any blooms. I think that's as far as I can get right now. And if you have something happen where something runs in to one of your main petals, you can always, if you used a clean brush, it would be better, you can lift out a little bit, right? Lift out a little bit, but make sure your brush is clean and thirsty. Thirsty means you squeeze all the water out. That's already too dry. This is probably also too dry, but this is fine. I'm good with this. So there's already a little bit of color on, and I'll have to let that dry. So I'm gonna wait for you to do yours, and then I'm gonna show you the next step. Okay, so you can see this is how mine dried. Things always dry lighter than they look, and I did get a little bit of some run back there, and I got a little bit. I don't mind that at all. I'm good with that, as a matter of fact. So let's see. So here's our center of interest that I want to isolate. And then there's a secondary down here and a third up here that, you know, will give a little bit more prominence to. Let's just get a fairly big brush out and start getting some paint on some of the less important areas. So here,
Did you wet it?
I wet it, yes, that's what I did. That's what I just did. So I'm just gonna go in here and just go around those petals here. And if I am not quite sure what I'm gonna have underneath, I'm actually putting yellow on because it can go either way. Right, it can go red or green. So there's that. And I think I'm gonna decide that this one actually is gonna go green, this one. And so I just dipped in a little bit of the blue. Again, I'm still staying pretty light. And here I'm just gonna go out over the edge there. And I can rinse it out. And I'm gonna go into the red, and I'm gonna put, so now I'm doing it on dry because I want to leave a hard edge there. See that? Mm-hmm. And then here, a little bit on both sides like that. And go down here. And don't use a tiny little brush because I don't want any stripes in here. And now that I'm doing it on dry paper, that could easily happen. And here, and I can go over that little stem, that's fine, because it's not. And going here, and this one's gonna be red, I know that. And like this, and I might just take a little bit of yellow in to the tip here because it's going to be on top, so I like to give it a little bit of sunshine. Do like that. And can you see how I'm isolating?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So far so good. So here I wouldn't mind at all if this turned darker, this whole area, because it's underneath. And I need help with pushing out my focal area. So I think I'm gonna put a little bit of water on just to give myself a little bit more time. And I'm gonna go over both a red and a green area. I went there, so I should go just like here. So red, I have red on here, then I have some green on here. So I'm just wetting that area, and now I'm going to go in actually with a little bit of the blue on my brush, the Antwerp blue, like that. Can you see that?
Yes.
So it's going to turn it a little purpley there. I'm fine with that. And then I'm going over the green here with the blue, and that's just gonna turn more green. And I'm gonna go all the way up here and make this little corner kind of disappear. And like this. Can you see I'm doing it in a very transparent manner? So you can still see everything that's underneath. I'm just trying to find out what it is I want to give details. So I'm just pushing all the other areas out of the way. And so here I'm doing with a very watered down blue. And I am gonna go around this one. And you can see I'm using a big brush that has a good tip. And that way I don't run out of pigment right away. And I can get around even though I didn't wet this area. And I can, so now I'm gonna dip in and get a little bit more of the blue. I can get this whole area covered without hard lines. There's that. And so see there I was going over where it wasn't any paint, so I see the blue. And now I'm going over the yellow. So I see, I make this leaf green, and I'm just gonna go to that line there. And make that green by going over the blue, and then here I can push this area back. Catch that edge. And
doing this for the dryish area.
yeah, right now it's dry, and I'm just gonna push this one back to let that blend in. And it's very, very light, so that's good. Might even put a little bit of purpley in there.
So your brush is damp, but the area, the paper itself is not wet until.
I didn't wet it.
Okay.
Because I figured I could get around, because I'm using a very big brush. Can you see how I'm very quickly
Yeah.
kind of isolating
Right.
and pushing a whole bunch of the petals and leaves and whatnot down by putting color on? And that way I can see where my stars are beginning to show up.
And you don't worry that this is bleeding?
No, I am not worried about that at all. I don't want and see I have there too. I'm not worried about that at all. Okay, so I'm feeling pretty confident. So I think I already pushed that down once, but I'm pushing it again. I don't know if I did. So I'm gonna go in and put some more red on here. And I'm gonna go all the way out and on the other side there. So that way I isolated that one, and let's not get a leaf or a stripe in between here. So we're just gonna do like this, big area. So I'm unifying also. I'm kind of unifying the,
Oh, I see what you did.
yeah, whatever is underneath. And then let's go in here and put a little bit of red on here. And I'll go to here. And I'm gonna go like that, over that. And then I'm gonna leave this one, that one I want it green, so that goes green. Yeah, we're making some good progress here. In here, I think I could go red on this one. And I'm going to put it on either side of this there, a little bit like that. Rinse it out, and then I'm going to loose this so that it just kind of blends. It's a little bit neutral, and then it blends in. It's a corner, I don't want it too interesting. All right, so then I have up here, I want to continue with a little bit of blue, and you can see I do everything very transparent still. I can still see my lines. I'm just trying to tell myself what the heck's going on here. So I want to go like this, follow that line, and I have a little bit of a line here. So I think I want to do like that. Can you see?
Yeah.
It's almost like magic.
It's
And I'm gonna go in here too.
like negative painting.
It's negative painting, exactly, very well put. It's negative painting, meaning that we're painting around subject matter. And let's see,
That's a good way to put it. That's exactly what she's saying.
yeah. One more, we need to get some more in here. Just gonna put the blue in here.
Using negative space. That's what
Negative space is what I'm painting right now, which is all the stuff that's underneath the top flowers, or the top poinsettias. And I'm gonna go and do this, and like this, and like this. I think I pretty much, there's one more I wanna get that's in here. That can go all the way in there. And I'm gonna paint around that edge. Of course, this is gonna be further down. This one's gonna be on top. I think it's dry enough. And then I can go out. And I'm gonna rinse it out and just kind of let that fade out until I know better what I'm gonna do. There. Okay, so that was my first go around after I did that initial one. Okay, so this is what mine dried like, and I feel like now I definitely have a much better overview of what's really going on. So what I want to do now is I want to start putting a little bit of detail on my stars of the show. And when I want to do that,
Right over you.
I do want to take off the masking inside here that I had masked out, you know, that white. So I don't want to take the outside off yet because, you know, I still want to have some darks here, so it's nice to have that border. But these here, I want to get rid of those now.
So you have to have a special eraser for
You
that?
can do it with your hands, but it's definitely easiest to use one of these rubber cement erasers, they're called. Weirdest name ever, but that's what they're called. And you can borrow mine. And they come in a square. I've cut mine up. They come in a square and they're like $1. It's no big deal. All right, so let's just get these here painted. And I'm gonna go with my Quinacrodone red, and maybe I will, I'll wet my leaf / petal first. And so I still have masking on up here, so we'll have a white line, but I have light color there, so we'll be good. And now I'm just gonna put that in, and I'm still applying in a transparent manner. And see some of that yellow underneath and is showing up, and I'm painting over my masking. That's fine. I don't really want it like white. It'll still show up like lighter. There's that. And so now I've got color on the whole thing, and now I'm gonna go in and really load up this tip away from the light. I want that really red. There. And I want it redder in here. It's gonna go in, it kind of goes into the flower here. So I can do that, like that. Okay. And let's just get a clean brush, and then let's just get these to just flow a little bit more together, like that. And I'm gonna dab in even a little bit more there, maybe a little bit more there. And here, I don't want a hard edge in here, so I'm just gonna kind of pull it out into here, and then it'll disappear into nothing. Can you see that? And here, maybe I don't want a hard edge right there. There, okay. So I kind of like what's going on there. And I do a little bit like that. And then I'm going to go in with my trusty credit card, and I'm going to scrape out this vein, and then it has these little ones down to the side, right? How much easier is it to do it this way than if I had to go in and try and do it with a brush? Most of the time when you do that, the lines get too fat. So there's that leaf.
Oh, wow.
And I'm happy with that. And can you see how the paint I put under, it's shining through, so it gives it a little bit more oomph. Okay, so I'm feeling confident now. I'm going to go in, and I'm going to put a little bit of water on this one that's underneath that one, but then it's on top of this one. So I'm going to go in, put a little bit of water on, and I want to keep this light. I want to keep this light that I have here, because you know the light's hitting there, and I also have my masking, so I want to keep that in mind. And then of course it's going to be the darkest. Now I can combine those two. It's going to be the darkest right here where it tucks under this other one, and I also want that darker because then it's going to push out that light edge of that one, right? Light against dark, dark against light. We always got to think about that. So I want it quite dark underneath here, so I'm going to load it up. And it could be dark down there. And I better watch out that I don't get any hard lines. And then I'm going to go in with a clean brush and kind of spread the paint around and move it out here. And just have a nice, smooth transition. I have that nice white underneath. I want to kind of keep that. Can you see it?
Yes.
Good. So I feel I can even go in, while it's still wet, I can go in and kind of dab in some more pigment. And I could, let's see how that would work. I might put a little tiny bit of blue on my tip and some more of the red. Dab, dab, dab. So that's a little bit of the Antwerp. Just to get a little bit of a darker color underneath here, more of a shadow color. Rinse that out and back into the pure red and get a little bit more of that on. See, this is where I could have decided to go in and use my permanent magenta to get that effect. But I can do it like this, so I wanted to show you since we did the other. See how nice that is? At least I think it's nice, and it really helped push it down. And we'll do the same thing. We'll give it that little vein thing.
Did you make that credit card thing up? That's so great.
I have learned from other painters. This
Gotcha.
is not my secret by any stretch of
That's
the
a good
imagination, but it really works like a charm. I usually cut mine like this because I like to have that pointy edge for those very fine details.
It really works.
And can you see how now I'm already giving, that helped push this edge out. And I can't paint this one yet because it's touching, but I can paint this one. So let's do it. And again, I like to put a little bit of water inside. And here I also have masking on, so this edge is going to catch the light and be really light. So I want to, this next one that's underneath is going to be, I'm going to do that really dark on that side to give it the dimension. And so here, put that on, and I have some little bleed backs and stuff, but you know, you didn't see me freak out about it, did you? No. No, I did not freak out about that. So now I'm going to start at this end because this part of it is going to be a little darker. So I tend to like to start putting on my color, my pigment, where it's going to be a little bit darker because it's away from the light. And then this edge is going to be very light, so I just go there, and then here I have white and yellow underneath, so automatically it's going to be a little lighter because it's coming out. And then it's going to dive down again here, so I put a little pigment on there.
Is this wet into wet or not?
Yeah, I put I wet it first. So now I'm going to pull this out and get them to say hello, 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 hello. And here, just a hint, just a veil of that red over. There. I am trying to keep these quite light on the highlighted areas because I'm going to really push down the background at a later stage when we are, finalizing it. So I want to make sure I don't lose those beautiful lights. So I like it like that. I think I'll leave it kind of sort of like that. Maybe there's a little something going on right there. And then here, just pull it out a little bit. Okay, Eva, don't fuddle too much. And again, my wonderful little scraper here. And when I do it when it's still very wet, the pigment, runs into those little grooves and I get dark markings. And I can wait some areas when I get to some of the darker ones, and maybe I want to have a little bit of highlight. But see how easy and nice that is? All right, and I will do the same with this and this. I can't paint that one yet, but I can show you. So let me just show you what I'm going to do so you can get some time to work yourself. So here, for instance, this is underneath 2, right? So I want to really push it down. So we can put water inside this whole area. And I like to continue it over on this side, as a matter of fact. Even though I have it red here, but I'm going to unify those 2 areas. And I'm going to put some blue. Actually, I mixed myself. So here's my Antwerp, and here's my Antwerp with yellow where it's more blue. It's a dark green, and here I have another green that I mixed where I put more of the transparent yellow in. So I'm going to go with the dark ones. So it's because I really want to push this down. Can you see? And just follow this. And on this side. And get it done, Eva, before we run out of time. And I need a little bit more pigment to have it in. And I want to get it done without getting any lines if I can. And I'm hoping that, and I kind of like to go on this side. Can you see how that turns purple then?
Yeah.
Go over on the other side. Nice. And let's see here. Can we get it? I think we can. A little bit. There. And here I dipped into the one that has a little bit more of the yellow in, just to get a little color variation. And see how I darken that whole area, and it has enough interest because of the colors that are kind of shining through, that I don't think I have to do a whole lot more to that. What I could do, because what this most likely is, it could very well be
Leaves.
a leaf. So I can just give it a little scrape like that to just kind of give you that idea. And can you see here I got a little bit of highlight because it's a little bit drier. So get a few little highlights, but I don't want to make it too interesting. It's out on the edge. I don't want to draw your attention. I don't want to take away from my center of interest. And now, while that happened, I can do this last one. Well, I have 2 actually. I can do this one. So it's underneath here and it's underneath there, meaning that it has to be darker than both of these 2. So I'm going to go again with a little bit of water, and it goes in under here and around there. A little bit of water on. so that things will flow. And then this edge will be light, but in here I want it, you know, relatively dark. So I'm gonna go in first with the red. And here we go. And then it goes around here. And goes around here. Get that one. And it goes underneath here. And here, this whole area, I want it quite dark. And I'm just, before I do anything more, I'm just gonna make sure I go all the way out to the edge. Don't wanna lose my light here completely. I wanna keep some of that. There. And then I need to go in and get some more of the red. And now I'm gonna, and I actually need it thicker than that. It's too much water, so I need to take the water out of my brush, go in here with a clean brush and get some more of that red in. So I have a little bit more pigment, and then some of the blue. You know, blue cools down, it kind of turns into a kind of a pinkish color. And let's see here, so I dab that in here, and I want to get it all the way over here too, and here, there we go. Make it nice and dark, and then I rinse out my brush. Now we are operating with staining colors, so that sometimes we have to hop in the shower more than once with this brush. And then dab the extra moisture off, and then just soften a little bit. Transitions there. Like that might be good to do it like this. There. And I'll do the same old thing. There. And just a couple. So now I have one more. That's this one. But you get the picture, so I won't keep you any longer, so you can go down and start, you know, developing your stars, so to speak. And I'll carry on a little bit, and then I'll give you some time to paint, because you know you need painting time, and then I'm gonna show you how we're gonna wrap it up. So there, that's as far as I got. And so I painted all the, there's one area here I think I should put a little bit of, just some blue one here. So it kind of matches what I have on the other side there. There, just so it doesn't stick up. Okay, so there we are. Let's just take I think mine's dry enough, at least it is up here. Make sure that I don't go in somewhere where I still have wet paint. So I'm going to grab and get the masking off.
Wow.
Oh, see, I got a little fingerprint on this one. Oh well.
If you commit a murder,
Yeah,
then we know.
doesn't matter so much. They can have a little imperfection if I get it right away.
Like that we were able to
there.
fix it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good enough. Then you want to make sure you dab with a clean Kleenex. There. It's because this is still wet, so that's why I got to be a little careful.
Oh, that white makes a huge difference.
So there's that.
Wow.
Here's this white.
To take that
Yeah,
off.
you want to wait till the end to take that off. I'm not quite at the end, but it's close enough that I can do it here. I just have to be a little bit more careful, but that's okay. But you can see, so I have all these nice highlights saved. So I have a few spots where I have, and I kind of centered them mainly around the center of interest. But, you know, also have, so you can kind of jump, you know, if you kind of skip along the whites, you can kind of get into the composition. So, there's that. Do I have any more left?
Right here.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, there. And that's
Oh,
good,
yeah.
I can take that off. There's that.
Yeah, it's better for this color, right? So you can
And
tell what
here.
it is.
So you can see I concentrated it in around my center of interest, of course.
And you got another little tip
And I
right
have,
there.
right there I have a tip. And here I have,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
there. Okay, so what you want to do is, you know, you don't really want those hard lines. That's not so pretty. So this is where I might use this one. It's not a scrubber brush, but it's a little bit of a stiffer flat brush. And if I can just kind of loose this with a damp brush, just scrub back and forth a little bit. Like that. And just lift it out. That way it's not such a harsh white line, you know, it's kind of more gradual. That's my whole point. I want to have it a little bit more gradual, so not so harsh. But I do want to have those very light edges that catches the light. I think that's going to look pretty. So that's how I'm going to loosen all the lines, and I'm not going to bore you with that thing. I just want to get all the finishing touches in, and here, same thing. Just, sometimes you might have to go in more than once, because remember, we are working with staining color, so they do not scrub out that easily. And if you have some really stubborn ones, wait till the very end, and then you can go in with an actual scrubber brush. But then don't go in with any more paint. Since I am still planning on going in with more paint, I don't want to use a scrubber brush now.
Do you have a scrubber brush?
I do.
What is it?
It's a very stiff brush, and so it's going to damage the paper a little bit. That's why you got to do it at the very end. where you're not planning on putting any more paint on.
Gotcha.
And I will show you a sample. I have a whole bunch here. These are all real scrubber brushes. You can feel how stiff they are.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm gonna do that
Paste.
in my studio, but we're not gonna leave these little guys here. They're yellow. They're yellow and maybe a little bit green. So let's get a little bit of yellow on them. And you can have a little bit of the white showing, some little sparkles, right? Just a little bit of that in. If you look at the picture, you can see they have like these little thingamajigs. And up here, get a little bit of that on. And then I can go in with a fairly not too wet brush, and I can dab in a little tiny bit of green around. And I'm trying to make sure that I still have, yeah, it runs together a little bit.
That's good.
But I don't have too much water on, because I still want to have some of the yellow, and I don't mind a little bit of the white sparkling through.
Okay.
And here. These up here shouldn't be too prominent. So I do that. And they're not finished yet, but now I have to let them dry. Mm-hmm. So I want to show you what else I'm going to do. Now I'm going to go in and find some of those real darks. And I'm going to use the colors I already have in my painting. So to get a real dark, definitely my Antwerp. And if I put a little bit of the red in here, so I have a dark purple, for instance. Let's go in here and find some of these little areas. And so I negatively paint around.
You're doing it
The-
dry.
I'm doing it on dry now because I want real dark, and I feel this area is so small I can control it. And I'm not using the tiniest of brushes. I'm using, oh, I still have masking on there, but that's actually kind of helpful. So now I'm going to go in and see, I'm defining a new shape there. You didn't even know that was there, did you now? And then I can pull out a little bit around here I want to get. And like there. And now I want to rinse it out, dab, and hopefully catch it. So I can go in and just kind of pull it out. A little bit on the other side. A little bit here on the other side. Pull that out. There. So can you see? Darkening in there. Let's do another one here. So I'm really interested in having those really rich darks around my center of interest. And it's going to start popping out some other shapes. See, so that kind of mimics that. And I can do another little one here. And you can still, the color that's underneath is still going to change the value a little bit. So how you see, can you see how I'm weaving those darks in between? Is it dry enough here? I don't know. We'll see. I can go in and then get this little shape. There's that. And I can actually make that a bigger shape. Don't want too many tiny shapes. Can you see it? Mm-hmm. So I'm defining. And then here, what if I go in like this? Can you see?
Oh, yeah.
And now I don't want you to have too many hard edges out here, so I'm actually going to go in and just kind of soften, have a little bit of a softer color here. There's still a little bit of a line, but it's not so drastic. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Took it away.
Yeah.
So I'm going to find those little dark shapes, And like for instance on this side, it's not good to have dark on this side and then a whole different color on that side. Then it looks like this leaf is a border. So we gotta have a similar color on the other side. So let's do that. A little bit more there. Can you see? And then have some sort of a shape there. And I don't want to, now I want to lose it. So I don't want to carry that all the way out. I want to just let it gradually kind of disappear out like that. So it's not so important there. Can you see that? And now this, I'm telling you that this leaf is on top of whatever is underneath there, and it's on top of there, right? Mm-hmm. So that's very important that you, so let's get another little shape here. So here's a little shape, little tiny shape that I can define. And then I could go out like there.
Using dry brush.
Yeah, it's not dry brushing, but I'm using on dry paper.
On dry paper.
And I go like this. And then again, I don't want it to be too important out here, so I'm going to go in with it watered down of that color. And maybe I'll go in and do a little bit of, no, that's not going to work. See, I need that to kind of have a similar color like I have over there. So let's do that. There. So it's also something for you to kind of learn, but that's the beauty of not using a gazillion colors. You don't have, you don't have too big of a question. So Dan, what color did I use? Well, it's a combination of the red, blue, and yellow that you have been using through the whole painting. You don't have to debate 20 other colors. So that's the beauty of doing it this way. And so I think this one also needs to be kind of like that color. So let's do it. And by doing all this, pretty soon, there we have that. So can you see then that weaves underneath? You don't think that it stops and then it's a whole different thing, and then this is a borderline. And I think it would be really nice if I had a little bit of green in there. So why don't I go into the green I mixed? I should probably wait just a little bit because, this is still wet.
What about your stems?
Yeah, and so my stems, how am I going to paint those? Well, that's up to me. What I could do was, I could go in, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to paint the stems, but I'm going to paint around them. There's a little stem there. I think I'm going to paint like this. Combine these two. And make that a little lighter there. And then I go in a bit darker here. There. Dab in a little bit more darkness there. And then there's an area here. I want to continue with the same color, but maybe gradually lighten it up a little bit. And it goes down to here. And a little bit in here. A little bit in here. There. And then similar color on the other side. There's another little stem. And then I can choose what I want to do. I think I want to darken from here. So there'll be a little color difference, but not big. And I don't want a big color difference out there because, again, I'm getting close to the edge of the painting. So you don't want to make that too important. And let's see if we can get these two to kind of just blend together like that. See?
Looks good. Very nice.
And actually See, it's dark over there, so I want to just, while I still can, darken a little bit here. And I don't know exactly what's going on in there. So if I don't know, I just stay out. Darken that a little bit, smooth that out, like that. Can you see how it's slowly but surely coming together? And let's go in here and do something. Maybe that's not the color I want. I think I'm just going to go in with the blue. Dark. And slowly I'm going to change it. And I'm going to change it even more. So that it's, see, I'm moving towards that one. Mm-hmm. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. So always look what's on the other side of whatever it is. And adjust your color and your value so that it, at least to some degree, mimics. And I need a little bit more red in there. And you know, nobody says you can't go back and help on the other side. There. Can you see how it's coming together? Mm-hmm. And what do we have in here? Oh, that was, I wanted to show you this one here. I kind of feel like I need a little green in here. So let's do it. It's not going to be as bright a green, but I don't need it to be as bright a green. I just need a little green in here, I feel. It's getting all very kind of blue, blue, blue. Didn't really care for that. There's that. So that's a little bit of a leaf you can see. And I can even give it a little scrape so that that's more obvious. And then I was going to show you what I'm going to do with the those little stamens that we have there. They need a little bit more than just that yellow. So I'm going to go in with my rigger brush, which is my skinny brush, and then I'm going to create a real dark, probably a real dark green that's not too bright. So that's yellow and blue, a lot more blue. And then to make it not so bright, I put a little bit of red in it, because, you know, we all know red and green complementary colors. So if you mix them up, you get a real kind of rich dark. Might have to go in and borrow a little bit more over here. There, kind of like that, almost black, but greenish. There. And then we can go in and we can just do some little, you know, dots and dabs, because they have all that going on too. And you can also give a couple of these here where you see them from a different angle. You can give them a couple of little, you know, stems to sit on. Mm-hmm. But just a little dibbly dabbly of those, and the same up here, and that's good enough. And then I have one more thing I want to do. I don't want everything yellow in there. So I'm going to take a little hint of that green that I had in my, and I'm going to put that on, go up here, and I'm going to go on that one, and I can go here, around that one that's in front, right?
That makes a huge difference.
And then these here, they're also a little bright, so I can tone them down a little bit.
That differentiated that.
Yes, exactly. And so you have to keep looking and saying, okay, I need to push something else back. And it's really, 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 really fun, I think, because look what I can also do. So look at this. So now I don't have it drawn in. I think it's dry. Is it dry? Yeah, I think it's dry. Okay, so then I can go in with even darker, this dark green I created. So what if I went in and did like this? How about it? I mean, you can have hours of fun in this thing. I'm just saying. Can you see how I'm creating another little stem that's even further away? And
wow.
let's continue the journey here, there, and then. So I created another stem that's further down, further back. And you can keep going and going and going and have so much fun. So I still have, you know, that same thing going on up here, in here. So if I want to keep those shapes in that kind of muted red, which I kind of might want to do, let's go in. And I already had that blue, so that's going to be, go in and put that on. And in here, around there. And then that can disappear out here. And I'm just going to unify that. Right?
Very nice. Change the shape.
Let's change the shape a little bit. And we can also separate here a little bit. Let's do it. So a little bit of a dirty red. And that's going to help, oops, push this side of this one out. Go into this one a little bit. That's all something you can, you know, clean up later. But there. And I can do it even darker in there. So that way I can kind of separate these shapes a little bit, and then I'm just gonna pull it out. Again, always thinking about, don't want it too interesting out on the edges. And I could go in and do another little separation, staying within the same color scheme, but just darken this part. There. So I separated these, and a little bit of that brighter red right here at the end. Right? And also there, just for a little, where is it? Come on. Where's my credit card? Did I lose it? I'll just grab a new one. It's here somewhere. But I thought, you know, just a little bit. I don't know how much I would get there. A little bit there, not too much. And what else do we have we could do? Like this one is kind of boring. I think I want red on that one. So I'm just going to take red. It already has quite a bit of color underneath. Gonna go in and do this. And just paint it red. And paint around here. And I did it on dry. I could have wet it, but I think I am gonna make it. And it has that blue underneath, so it's going to push it down compared to this one. It's gonna be cooler. So there we have it. And again, let's give it a little scrape. And here, what can I do? I could, just for fun, give it a little bit, a veil of a green color here. I think would be nice. I think it's all needs a little bit more pizzazz. Just break it up. and here. There's that. Okay. Maybe do it a little darker in here. While it's still wet, I can do it. And just like that. There. We need a little bit more dark up here. I have all these shapes, I don't really know what they are. So,
I don't feel bad if I don't.
no, don't feel bad. So, I think what I'll do, I have those greens, I think I'll just put a very, very, very light, little dirty down bit of this red on. Underneath is going to show up because I'm doing it very watered down. And then if I feel I need to, but I don't think I probably do. I don't want to split up out here in the corners too much into all sorts of shapes. You got to have some areas where your eyes can rest a little bit. So that's good. Oops. And here. And I'm just going to go and at least unify it. And then if I think I need to split it up a little bit, I can always do that. But for right now, I'm just kind of want it to more or less disappear. And I think I'm going to go as far as here. I have a line here that I can use. There. And then I think I want to darken just a little bit here. Want to darken a little bit here. Put a little bit of yellow in. And then I'm going to rinse it out. I'm going to kind of loose this edge. That way it got a little bit of a darker area here, which was kind of nice. And it'll need a little evaluation. Oh, I have a couple more spots that really, really will make a difference. And that is, of course, in here, right? We have these little spots. And there's a stem there, and then this goes around here. There. Make it a little greener so that it matches. There. See, those are those little golden areas. There's a little darkness right there. There's a little darkness right there. This one more, this color. And then mimic that over here a little bit. And I think there could be a little dark area right here, actually. And this one I want to soften out. If I don't really know what's going on, I usually soften the edge like that. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm. What color would you put on top there, where your thumb is?
This one?
Yeah. What color?
I was kind of thinking I wanted some green in there. I kind of feel like I needed a little bit more green.
Yeah.
But not just a veil of green. That was my thought. So let's do it. Now I can do it. And I'll do that out here too, because I didn't really like what I had here. So put a little Oh, I have green in the brush. It wasn't really my intent, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's a good green.
I think that's what it needs. Just tone it down a little bit. And you know, later I'm gonna go in and soften those edges, but I think it needed just a little bit of green here. And it can go here. And that can mimic over here, and it can catch up with that one. And just, let's darken it a little bit here. I want it darker because that way I can push it underneath that red thing. The red leaf here. And there. And there. There. Okay, I am now at home in my studio, and I just wanted to put the final touches on this painting after having looked at it a little bit. You know, I can kind of tell what it is I want to change, so, or not change, but improve. So I want to just get a few more of the darks in, and I want to make sure that I don't end with one color on one side of like a stem or a leaf or a petal, and not have at least a little bit of that same color on the other side. So I could see I had an area down here where I kind of indicated those stems that are going behind. So, and you can see that's how I did that. And then I had an area here that I think it's too, you know, it's too wishy-washy. So I need to darken that area a little bit. So here, first I'm going to go in with just the Quinacrodone red on its own and just glaze it over, painting around these little flowers or stamens, whatever we decided they were. Glaze over here to push that down. And in watercolor, since we are painting transparently, as you glaze colors over each other, they turn darker and darker and darker. And I like to do it so that it still has a transparency, so when it dries, I can still see what's underneath, only it's intensified and becomes darker. But I haven't lost, you know, it's not opaque. I haven't lost what I did earlier. So I can just tell that here it just needs to be pushed down, even though it's out on the corner, so we don't want to be like too bright or anything, but still I want to have a little bit more separation of the shape. So, you know, basically what I'm doing is I'm pushing out the top petals, you know, bringing them out forward by pushing down the ones behind here. And again, I'm just using, and I'm going to do this whole area, and it's also going to help push out those little yellow thingamajigs. So there. And I'm treating this whole area as one right now. And I'm doing it on dry. I could certainly have done it on wet. Let me try not to stick my hands in my wet paint. But I'm loading up my brush with a lot of pigment, so I feel comfortable that I can get around the whole area before it dries on me. And see how that's going to help this leaf and this leaf be pushed out. And there is some goes underneath here. I didn't really define that. So there. And you can see I turn my painting, hopefully not outside of the camera, so that I can get to the areas as easily as possible and not have to hold my hand in a really weird position. All right, can you see how that already, it pushed out that petal, it pushed out actually the tip of that one, and it pushed out this area. And I still have to go in here and get a little bit of this corner color on around this light tip of that big leaf there. And then I want to keep it light at the tip and also lighter on this edge because it's on top of that green that I have in there, that green leaf. But here I want it a little bit darker, so I'm doing that. Oops, put into the blue area. Didn't really want that. And now I'm going to rinse out my brush and dab it so it's just damp. And then I'm going to go in before this dries on me and I'm going to pull it out. And actually I think it would be really lovely if I took just a tiny, tiny bit of yellow and just mix that in here. To just warm it up a little bit and bring this tip out. And that way I get a little bit of a repeat of a yellow tone over here in this part of the painting to match what I have over on the other part. I think that's a good idea. So I think it's a good idea. That's what I'm going to do. And there we have it. Can you see how that's already much, much better? I really like that I did that. That was a good movie, huh? All right, then I have an area up here. I already lifted it out a little bit. I don't know if you remember, but in class, I got it kind of, used to bird sienna, I think, and it just didn't look good. So in this area, I would like to also, have too much going on. That's all the same. So I'm going to glaze this area with a bit of the Antwerp and just unify this whole area and darken it. And when I'm doing it on that side, I should do a little bit on the other side here and a little bit here. And I'll just go down here. And then I'm going to rinse out my brush and very quickly just move that color out. Make sure I don't get any hard edges. So I've got to be quick when I do this kind of stuff. Especially since I didn't wet the area first. And here, unify that. And then there's a line there that I can use as a stopping point. There. Can you see that? This area, that kind of push that down a little bit. I like it. And then I can go back here because here are some areas that really needed to be darkened. So I'm going to stick with my blue and I'm just going to put a little bit of that on these areas that are underneath these petals, that are underneath these petals. So just to kind of go out and do a little darker here. And see, where are they? So here is also an area, and it's a little captured negative space, we call these, where it's just we can see a little tiny bit underneath. Can put a little bit in here, and that's that petal, and then here is a little area that's underneath again. There. Can you see that? That gives us a little bit more information on what's going on. And then I can see there's one more. Actually, I'm feeling I should probably have done it like this. And then let's do it a little bit darker in here again, just so we get a repeat on either side. And I'm going to go down like that. And now I'm going to loose the edge here because I don't want to keep going dark, dark, dark. So I'm just transitioning from that dark into this dark white, but not as dark as there. Can you see that? Okie dokie, and I have one more area here that I think needs to be darkened. And that goes like that. Underneath here. And get rid of that little white sparkle. And then I want to pull out here a little bit more. And here. There's that. Could fine tune this little area just a tad. Let's take a look. What do you think? I have to remember that I wanted to keep this loose, so it's very difficult once you get going with this stuff. It can be very difficult to stop when you need to. I see one little just fix area that needs to be fixed. That's this area up here. This one. I mean, now I'm into the nitty-gritty, I guess, but this is not perfect. Let's put a little bit of fresh green on. There. There. Just get that. It's disappearing there. Okay. Let's take another look. There's a couple of little, like here, it's a little fix, just a little, some little sparkles that I don't want out here on the edge. Just taking care of those with just a damp brush, where I see some, if there's some little white areas that don't belong, I just very gently with a damp brush just kind of smoosh around a little bit so that the white sparkles disappear. There. Go darken a little bit underneath there. And eeny, meeny, miny, moe. I think I'm good. I think I'm going to call this one done. I hope you have a lot of fun with this, and I hope this illustrated that, you know, just because we are using photographs to see another little area here as our reference does not mean we have to replicate them. As a matter of fact, I think it's better not to. You know, I always say if you want a photograph, you know, photorealistic, just take a photo and be done with it. I just see one other little area where I thought it would be nice to have a tiny bit of a yellow hint here. And then just look at your painting as it evolves and let that dictate what you're doing, not the photograph. So here you have it, abstracted interpretation of some poinsettias. Have fun, happy painting, and see you in another video. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel.